Marianne Daintree will do anything to escape the boredom of Bath and the amorous attentions of an unwanted suitor. So when an invitation arrives from her twin sister, Cecily, to join her at a sprawling country estate, she jumps at the chance. Thinking she'll be able to relax and enjoy her beloved English countryside while her sister snags the handsome heir of Edenbrooke, Marianne finds that even the best-laid plans can go awry. From a terrifying run-in with a highwayman to a seemingly harmless flirtation, Marianne finds herself embroiled in an unexpected adventure filled with enough romance and intrigue to keep her mind racing. Will Marianne be able to rein in her traitorous heart, or will a mysterious stranger sweep her off her feet? Fate had something other than a relaxing summer in mind when it sent Marianne to Edenbrooke.
The day had finally come, and I could scarcely believe it. My heart soared with such happiness that I felt the urge to twirl, but I refrained. I was rather proud of myself for showing such restraint. I didn't twirl when I leapt out of bed, the very bed where I had slept during my first visit to Edenbrooke, though it was only for fear that I might injure myself on this most important of days. I didn't twirl when my maid arranged my hair, weaving lily of the valley blossoms throughout. The soft tendrils framed my face perfectly, but I worried that one misstep might loosen the delicate pins from my dark curls. I didn't twirl even as she helped me into my gown, a creamy, buttery yellow lace with an almost heart-shaped neckline, though its flowing fabric was practically made for twirling. The temptation was great, but I resisted, and I certainly didn't twirl when I slipped on my lace-covered shoes, though they were the loveliest pair I had ever owned, for I feared ruining them before the day had even begun. Most of all, I did not twirl when I imagined the look on his face when he saw me for the first time. That last one was the hardest. My heart fluttered at the very thought of Philip's expression when our eyes would meet. Could this truly be happening? Could I really be the girl who had stolen his heart? I pinched myself once, just to be sure I wasn't dreaming. I stood there. I found my thoughts drifting back to that night in the library, the night when everything changed. His words echoed in my mind, their weight as powerful now as they were then. I smiled softly, my heart overflowing with the memory. His voice swirled around in my head, his warm, strong hands on my face.
Then listen to me, my blind, stubborn, darling friend. You stole my heart the night we met, when you sang that ridiculous song and dared me not to laugh, and every moment I have spent with you since then, you have stolen more and more of me until when you're not with me.
I remembered the breath he drew in.
When you are not with me, I am left with nothing but longing for you.
I blushed even more at the memory. That was it. I was convinced at that moment of his love for me. Oh, I could twirl at the thought. Just before I did, I stopped and chastised myself. I stared out my window, trying to remain composed, but I was far too restless to stay still. Unable to contain my excitement, I ran to my door and opened it cautiously. Peering into the hallway, I made sure Philip was nowhere in sight. He had assured me he would remain in the opposite wing of the manor, so we wouldn't see each other before the ceremony. But I wanted to be certain. Once confident that he was nowhere near, I headed straight for the library. It was unlikely that he would be there, however, that was his sanctuary. I made a note to carefully survey the library before entering, just to be sure. I slowed my steps to a tiptoe as I neared the door, determined to be as quiet as possible. I cracked the door open and peered in, carefully inspecting the room. The sunlight poured through the windows, bathing the room in a warm glow, and warming up the comfortable chair by the window. After a moment, I slipped inside and closed the door behind me. Sinking into the soft cushion of the chair, I was careful not to rest my head against the back for fear of ruining my hair. From the window, I could see the orchard, where the servants were busily arranging the decorations for our wedding. I smiled, pleased with how everything was coming together. I had wished for a simple wedding, and Philip's mother had graciously allowed me to plan every detail, right down to the last petal. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of the sun lull me into a state of contentment. I was so relaxed that I nearly drifted off to sleep when I heard the jiggle of the doorknob. I squeaked in surprise and immediately clapped a hand over my mouth. In a panic, I scanned the room for a hiding place. My eyes landed on a dusty, cobwebbed shelf that looked like it hadn't been disturbed in ages. Without a second thought, I scrambled over and crouched behind it, gathering my dress to keep it from getting soiled. Peeking through a narrow gap between the books, I held my breath. Philip strolled into the room, looking as handsome as ever in his midnight blue coat and crisp white cravat, his dark hair still slightly tousled. I couldn't help but smile. He still looked like himself. He walked over to one of the shelves, retrieved a book, and slipped a sealed letter inside. I wondered what that was about. Then, with a sigh, he sank into the very chair I had just vacated, gazing out of the window. This room was as much his sanctuary as it was mine. The thought warmed my heart. This was our place. I leaned against the shelf, trying to get a better look, but then, thud! A book fell from the shelf, revealing my hiding spot. I squeaked, instantly covering my mouth, and panicked. I shimmied myself further back into the corner, careful to not drop my dress. I found another small gap in the books and peered out, my heart pounding. My breath caught as Philip turned, his brow furrowing in confusion. He slowly stood, glancing around the room with suspicion, then walked over and retrieved the fallen book. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't find me. He then started walking towards where I had entered my hiding spot. My heart raced as I frantically considered my options, when suddenly a man's voice called out.
"Sir Philip, your mother requests your presence."
Philip hesitated, then sighed and turned toward the door. The sound of his footsteps faded as the door closed behind him. I let out a long breath. That had been far too close. I waited a few moments to put some distance between us, then stood, shaking out my legs, which had fallen asleep from crouching. I made my way to the door. Just before my hand touched the handle, I stopped, remembering the letter. Curiosity getting the better of me, I walked back to the shelf where Philip had hidden it, scanning the area carefully. There, nestled among the books, I found a crisp new volume I had never seen before, a collection of poetry. My heart quickened as I withdrew the book from its place. I flipped through the pages, my fingers trembling slightly, when suddenly the envelope slipped out and fluttered to the floor. I picked it up, my name written across the front in elegant handwriting. Philip has such beautiful handwriting. I turn it over and break the seal and retrieve the letter inside.
My dearest Marianne, as I pen these words, we stand but a few hours from the moment we shall pledge ourselves to one another, bound for all eternity. Though by the time this letter reaches you, we will already be man and wife, I could not let this day pass without conveying the depth of my joy and devotion to you. From the very first day we met, you have captivated me in ways I could scarcely have imagined. My heart has been in raptures ever since. And now, as we stand on the cusp of our vows, I find myself utterly and completely delighted, beyond all measures, that I may call you mine, and I forever yours. I look forward to the lifetime ahead of us, a future filled with the promise of your laughter, your companionship, and the love we shall share. My darling friend, my heart is yours, now and forever, and I cannot wait to begin this journey at your side. Yours eternally, Philip.
I clutched the letter to my chest, beaming with joy. I couldn't help myself this time. I did it. I twirled. Or at least I tried to twirl before colliding with the bookshelf. I looked down at my dress, making sure it was still in sound repair. I delicately patted my hair to make sure it was still pinned in place. Other than the possible bruising, I was still presentable. Thankfully, I didn't crumple the letter. Now, where to hide the letter? An idea popped into my head. This may be a bit unconventional. I took out the letter from the envelope and folded it again and hid it in the bodice of my gown, close to my heart. Philip's loving words deserved no less. I grinned as another thought came to mind. I couldn't wait to show off that I had already found this secret treasure. The ceremony was perfect. Held in the village church, it was small, with our closest friends and family gathered, smiling affectionately at the two of us. But it was Philip's reaction as I walked down the aisle that was beyond all expectation. His eyes found mine, and in that moment, it felt as though I hung the sun, moon, and stars for him. His love and joy were written plainly on his face, radiating so brightly that he seemed to glow with it, as if the light of the sun itself shone from him. After the ceremony, we rode back to Edenbrooke, where the reception was set in the orchard. It was even more beautiful than I'd imagined. The servants and the planner had done such a marvellous job. The flowers, roses, wildflowers, and lilies of the valley, were arranged simply, yet with such elegance. There was a space set aside for dancing beneath the trees, and the soft flicker of candles added a magical touch to the scene. It was all so wonderful, full of laughter and warmth. Philip and I danced and danced, so much that by the end, it felt as though our feet might fall off. But I didn't care. I was too happy to be tired, and as I twirled in his arms, I knew that this day, this moment, would live in my heart forever. We now sat at the table, our hands clasped together, watching the couples twirl and sway in the soft glow of candlelight. The evening was perfect, and I felt as though I could not be any happier.
How are you this evening, Mrs. Wyatt?
Philip asked, his voice low and warm. My heart skipped a beat at the sound of my new name, Mrs. Philip Wyatt, his wife. The thought sent a wave of warmth through me, and I couldn't help but smile, remembering the letter he had written. I glanced at him from under my lashes, a playful grin spreading across my lips. Exceptionally well, dearest. And you? He raised an eyebrow, his own smile tinged with curiosity.
Even though your smile is exceptionally lovely, I can't help but feel that your grin suggests you know something I don't.
I giggled softly, leaning in just a little. I do, I said coyly, enjoying the intrigue lighting up his eyes. Philip's gaze turned intense, his lips curving into a knowing smile as he leaned closer.
Tell me,
He murmured, his voice rich and sultry, sending a shiver down my spine. I couldn't help but laugh, my secret too thrilling to keep any longer. Reaching into my neckline, I noticed his bewildered expression.
What are you?
He began, but his words trailed off when I held up the folded paper. His jaw dropped.
Is that?
He asked, eyes wide. I nodded, unable to contain my excitement, but a pang of guilt flickered through me when I saw the look of disappointment on his face. My cheeks flushed, and I looked away. I'm sorry. I know you wanted me to find it later. His features softened as he smiled gently.
It's all right.
He reassured me.
I wanted you to find it anyway. Just not quite so soon.
His voice still held its warmth, but there was still a question in his expression.
How did you find it so quickly?
I hesitated, laughing nervously. We're too much alike, you and I. We both sought refuge in the library. He blinked in confusion, furrowing his brow.
But I didn't see you in the library.
His words trailed off, his eyes widening in sudden understanding.
The book.
He pointed at me, his voice a mix of disbelief and amusement.
That was you.
I giggled, slapping the table lightly. I didn't want you to see me before the wedding. He chuckled, shaking his head in amazement.
My dearest Marianne, I believe you will never cease to surprise me.
I grinned, feeling lighter again. But then his expression softened, his eyes searching mine with quiet tenderness.
What did you think of it?
He asked, his voice hushed. My heart swelled, and I propped my head on my hand, gazing at him. My darling Philip, I whispered. I loved it. His grin spread slowly across his face, his eyes gleaming.
Did you?
He leaned in closer, his hand clasping mine, his breath brushing my cheek. I nodded, lost in the warmth of his gaze.
Did it make you want to twirl?
He asked with a mischievous grin. I laughed, covering my face with one hand. Yes, and I did, I confessed, my cheeks burning. Well, I tried to, until I slammed into the bookcase. Philip burst into laughter, his whole body shaking with amusement while I blushed furiously. When he finally caught his breath, his expression softened and he cupped my cheek gently.
It's all right, my dearest friend. That's one of the many reasons I love you.
I placed my hand over his, my cheek warm beneath his touch. Philip grinned, his eyes lighting up.
Do you feel like twirling now?
I pretended to consider it, glancing upward thoughtfully. I'm rather happy, but the urge to twirl hasn't quite struck me yet. His expression softened as he cupped my face entirely, drawing me closer. Then, without warning, he pressed his lips firmly to mine. The kiss was intoxicatingly sweet. Each moment savoured like a dream. When we finally parted, my breath hitched, and I noticed the same effect on him. His gaze was heavy with emotion, his hand still gently holding my face.
How about now?
He whispered, his voice low and stirring. He leaned closer, his breath grazing my ear as he added in a voice like velvet.
Mrs. Wyatt.
A shiver ran down my spine. Warmth blossomed in my chest, and butterflies fluttered wildly within me. I nodded, suddenly unable to form words. As I started to rise, he immediately stood and pulled my chair out for me.
Allow me to help you this time.
I giggled softly. That is probably for the best. He led me to a small clearing between the trees, the soft candlelight flickering in the distance. There was a wide enough space that I knew I wouldn't risk hitting anything, but I was glad to have Philip standing close by. I extended my arms and leaned my head back, starting to twirl, first slowly, then faster, feeling the breeze in my hair and the skirt of my gown fanning out. Philip stayed nearby, his hands lightly brushing against mine or my waist as he guided me away from any potential collisions. His smile mirrored mine, full of joy. We were quite the pair, weren't we?